What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Dazzle video. Today we are going to be going over my 2025 Shallow Grave guide. I made one last year, same as my Poison Touch, but I think I'm going to want to do these once a year just so we can get an updated version on what's going on with Shallow Grave, as well as improving upon my editing and my storytelling skills and my speaking skills. So let's get to it. This is probably one of the most recognizable skills that Dazzle has. An ally blessed with Shallow Grave, no matter how close to death, cannot die while under its protection. Healing on that ally is also amplified for the duration based on the hero's HP. It lasts 4 to 5.5 seconds depending upon the level, and then the heal amplification per 10% missing health is 3, 5, 7, and 9%. If you're missing 90% of your HP, you will get 27% heal amp at level 1. At level 4, if you're missing 90% of your health, you get 81% heal amplification, which is a lot. It has a cooldown of 30, 26, 22, and 18. It's one of the longer cooldowns that Dazzle has. And to help it scale into the late game, you do have a nice talent at level 20, which you can pick, which is -4 second Shallow Grave cooldown. So this is probably the talent that you're going to take if you're playing Nothl Boon. In terms of mana cost, it's not too big of a deal. It's 90, 100, 110, 120. Dazzle right now does not suffer from tons of mana problems, so you can feel free to take this at level 4 or even level 3 if you're playing a 1-1-1 build, depending upon the build that you choose. In terms of the cast range here, it is stuck at 900 for all 4 levels. And this is one of the main reasons why Dazzles are not leveling Shallow Grave past level 1 until all your other skills are maxed, because you're not really getting that extra cast range out of it, and you're really only losing 0.5 seconds of duration per level. Shallow Grave is one of the best late game skills in the game of Dota, because if you have a core that does 1 billion infinite damage, you can easily keep them alive to do 5.5 seconds more of that damage. In addition to graving yourself or your targeted allies, Shallow Grave can target a few unique units like Lone Druid's Bear, Naga Illusions, the Golem from Warlock, and also Broodmaster's Pandas during his ult. You can also annoyingly Shallow Grave Wraith King's Vampiric Spirit Aura units. If one of your teammates dies during Wraith King's Ags, you can grave that unit and it won't do anything. And I have griefed many games because of this. So that's something we all have to watch out for. If you have a Wraith King on your team and you are trying to time this up and you slightly miss the timing, you just wasted your Shallow Grave on a unit that's going to die anyway. Another very annoying part about Shallow Grave is the fact that your allies can actually dodge Shallow Grave. And how do they dodge it, you ask? They can dodge it with Manta. If I have Shallow Grave, they have Manta, and I walk up, and I press Manta at the right time. It has to be after you start the animation. In that 0.3 second window, if they press Manta, they can dodge the Shallow Grave. Your carry is somehow going to wait to the last second when they're at 1 HP to cast their Manta, and then you end up looking like you missed a Shallow Grave. Another thing that's pretty useful about Shallow Grave is you can target units based on the top. So this is pretty useful in a couple of situations. If you have a unit with tons of illusions and you don't want to grave the illusion, you can click the top and it'll grave the hero instead of the illusion. Another thing that's pretty useful is when you have a tossed unit. Let's see if I can do this quickly. You can grave your ally while he's in the air or off screen. That's something that you might have to do in games before he hits the ground, for example, because Tiny's Toss applies the damage when he hits the ground. Or if you have 3 allies that are all hitting one target, you want to be able to grave the right unit, whoever it is that you want to end up graving. So one small tip in terms of casting Shallow Grave very quickly. In the past, you would have walked around and just be ready to be in range for a Shallow Grave. Now, it's better to have a Nothl Projection ready. And how you have this ready is Alt right click. This is under the Dota Lab setting, under Interface, Persistent Range Indicators. You want to have this turned on, and all you have to do is hold Alt and right click, and this will give you the range. It'll show the range for all your skills as you go forward. And this way you can very, very quickly cast Shallow Grave from super far away instead of being 900 units away from the person you want to cast it on. It's also super important to get your Nothl Projection on just in case the opponent has an Orchid or some sort of silence that's going to prevent you from doing that. With Shallow Grave, you have two main goals. Number one is to keep someone alive that the enemy is going to waste their spells on. So for example, if you have your Jug that's ulting, you want to grave the ally that is going to waste Jug's ult. The second main goal of Shallow Grave is to grave the target that is doing a bunch of damage. So in most cases, it's going to be your hard carry who's going to be going in and doing tons of damage. Another thing you want to consider when choosing your Shallow Grave targets is which of your heroes have their cooldown. So if you have a Witch Doctor support that already has used their Cask, their Maledict, and their Death Ward, you don't really want to prioritize the Witch Doctor even if they are getting gone on. You probably want to prioritize your carry, who's going to be doing the majority of the damage in the team fight. Shallow Grave is an amazing ability in terms of vision for two reasons. Number one, you cannot tell which direction Shallow Grave is cast from. So it looks the same from all directions. It's basically just a circle. And by the way, the animation is set up so when this circle, this halo, reaches the ground, that's when Shallow Grave ends. It also is pretty nice because the enemy cannot tell where you are in the Fog of War. So this is what it looks like from the enemy's perspective when Dazzle's in the Fog of War and cast Shallow Grave. Right? We have no idea where Dazzle is. He's actually here, but you can't tell. So if you're in a team fight and you're standing in the trees and you don't want the enemy to know where you are, you can cast Shallow Grave with no penalty. If you cast any one of your other spells, you will be able to be detected. For example, Shadow Wave looks like this, right? So you're here. Poison Touch looks like this. So Poison Touch is even worse. You can actually see the unit. It actually reveals you as if you did a right click, which sucks. And then Nothl Projection has the halo, or it has the tether, and also breaks trees. So if you're hiding within trees, it'll reveal your body's location as well. Where the fuck is Glimmerkite? All right, next let's talk about some items that synergize well with Shallow Grave. The first two items are my top tier items that synergize well with Shallow Grave, and these are healing items. And this is because of the heal amplification per 10% missing on Shallow Grave. Generally, you're going to be casting Shallow Grave when your ally is low health, and the heal amp aspect of Shallow Grave is going to make sure you get more out of the item than any other hero would. So these are Mech and Locket. The next tier of items that synergize well are Solar Crust, Glimmer Cape, and Force Staff. So these are just classic save items, and paired with Shallow Grave, it makes the unit that you are targeting very, very, very hard to kill. And then my honorable mention is Wind Waker, which just gives you an extra kind of save from a lot of situations depending upon the lineups. And as a side note, Ag Shard also amps your heal while you're in ult form. So if you're in ult form and you have Shard and you have Locket, you'll have a bunch of heal amp from 10% missing on Shallow Grave, you'll have your 15% heal amp on Holy Locket, and you'll have an additional 20% heal amp on your Nothl Projection Shard. So it's a lot of heal amp that comes out, and this is one of the main reasons why this Nothl Boon Facet is very strong, because you get another 15% heal amp stack for every spell that you cast on your allies. So the heal amp becomes very, very, very strong. Now we're going to take a look at popular counters to Shallow Grave. Let's start with items. So when playing against Shallow Grave, a lot of enemies will buy Eye of Skadi, Vessel, and these are two items that reduce the healing amp of all of your spells and the heal aspect of Shallow Grave. And people will buy Yule sometimes to just make sure that the ally that you grave stays in the same spot and doesn't use a blink or a force staff to get away. So the first skill that's pretty annoying to play against with Shallow Grave is OD's Astral Imprisonment. So just make sure that the Shallow Grave target can't get buffed in any way. You can't cast Solar Crest or Forest Staff or Glimmer Cape on him, and he's going to take damage when they hit the ground. The next one is Ricky's Shard with his smoke screen. So Ricky's Shard makes it so the enemies in the smoke screen have their armor reduced, and you cannot be targeted by allies. So I can't Shallow Grave them. Even if I click the portrait, it's not going to work, which is a very, very popular counter to Shallow Grave. Another popular spell against Shallow Grave is Invoker's Tornado. And it's the same idea as OD's Astral Imprisonment, where it keeps the Shallow Grave target in place and makes it so you can't buff him in any way. And then, of course, you have Axe's Culling Blade, which goes through Shallow Grave. And then lastly, you have AA's Ice Blast, which will kill the low HP unit as soon as Shallow Grave ends. Lastly, we're going to talk about Nothl Projection. So the way Shallow Grave is buffed by your Nothl Projection is you get a heal after Shallow Grave ends of 225, 300, and 375, depending upon the level of your Nothl Projection. This will be amplified by all your heal amps. So if you have Shard, it'll be amplified 20%. If you have Holy Locket, it'll be amplified by another 15%. And then it will also be amplified by the heal amplification per 10% missing of the Shallow Grave. So that's what makes this very, very strong. It buffs your heal by a lot. In some cases, you will get like 500, 600 heal at the end of the Shallow Grave, which helps your ally survive almost any circumstance in a normal game. So if I Shallow Grave him here, he should be buffed by, should be healed by like 300, 270, and this is a level 1 Shallow Grave. I do have Shard here, but I don't have Holy Locket, and my Shaker has a lot of HP here, so he's not getting a lot from the heal amp per 10% missing. What's cool about this heal amp is you can cast Shallow Grave without being in ult form, right? And as long as you cast your ult before the Shallow Grave ends, he will receive the heal at the end of the Shallow Grave. This also works the opposite way. So if you cast Shallow Grave and then you end your Nothl Projection, he will still receive the heal at the end of the Shallow Grave. So as long as the Shallow Grave is active while you had projection going at any point, your ally will receive the heal at the end of the Shallow Grave. All right, that concludes my 2025 Shallow Grave guide. I hope you guys are winning lots of games as Dazzle, and I will see you guys in the next Dazzle video.